So when I was younger, I used to be overthinkers maximus. I used to think and think and think and think, and problems never used to get solved because I used to think so much or overthink so much. See, we're human beings, and our brain is a machine that wants to be stimulated. If there's nothing to stimulate your brain will cook up a story. Now, this is not a sign of stupidity. In fact, quite the opposite. This is a sign of intelligence. Overthinking and anxiety in general have been linked to higher levels of cognitive function. Because if you go back to the prehistoric era, the minute you saw a tiger in the bush, you need to start overthinking. Where could the tiger be? Is it there? Is it there? Is it there? Because you're running a calculation in your brain. Your brain is trying to simulate the approximate location of the tiger and trying to look for the tiger in every pattern that it sees. Because, as you know, tigers have stripes and tigers camouflage themselves in their environment. And your brain is trying to undo that camouflage. Unfortunately, it doesn't serve a great purpose in the modern generation. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how I got over overthinking. Instead of saying how I can overcome overthinking, I'd love to say this is how you can overcome overthinking. But as you know, all the psychologists and the woke people will climb through the crevices and make my life annoying. So what I'd like to tell you instead is my own story and how I beat overthinking. And maybe you can take one or two things out of this. So like I said, right, what goes on in your mind is a lot like what goes on in a dog's body, right? If you've ever had a dog, and I had a dog for almost 12 years before it died, right? The dog, it can't stay still for too long. It's got to keep jumping around. It's got to keep, nibbling at the ball. It's got to keep nibbling at the chair. It's got to keep doing something stupid or the other all the time. Because it's got a lot of pent-up energy. And to be honest, the dog needs that stimulation. If you stop taking your dog for a walk, if you stop exhausting your dog, well, the dog is just going to eat up and chew up all the furniture in your house. So overthinking is a lot like that, where your brain needs something to chew on, but doesn't have anything. So obviously it's going to make the room in your head a mess because it's got no stimulation whatever. So I was watching this horror movie on Netflix, and there was this one quote in the movie that said, "Work silences the mind." And ever since I heard that quote, my life's been a lot better because I've realized that, hey, that is actually pretty true. If you can take your dog out for a walk or give it something to chew on, maybe a bone to chew on, it's not going to chew on the furniture. And I've seen this to be true so many times now. When I was younger, I used to unconsciously do this. Whenever I was stressed or overthinking or anxious, I'd play Dota. And when I play Dota, I can't concentrate on anything else outside. Right? If I had a meeting tomorrow and I was nervous about it, I'll be in game and I don't think about the meeting. I cannot. Otherwise, if I was not playing Dota and I was just sitting down thinking about the meeting, I would be so nervous. My stomach would just keep churning for like hours until the meeting actually happened. And then 2 minutes into the meeting, I'll be like, oh, actually, this is pretty chill. Right? There's nothing wrong with this. So all that thought, all that anxiety for nothing. For nothing. So I've kind of realized that staying busy is actually a virtue. It's not a sin. We make it out to be a sin. Oh, this person's so busy, can't enjoy life. Actually, the best, happiest people in the world are so clueless, are so unaware because they're doing something. And it need not be you being busy, working. It could be you busy playing. You could be playing football with your friends and not have a care in the world. So you need to have something that wisps you away, that gives you an escape by shifting your brain's focus from rubbish to what is actually, it need not even be important, right? It just needs to be fun. It just needs to be engrossing. It could be a book. It could be a game. It could be, going out and having fun with your friends. Because when you do all of this, you can't overthink. Try to not sit down and do it. And if you want to go by the psychology way of doing things, this is called rumination. Right? Rumination, in fact, is one of the first few signs of depression. Rumination means you've taken a thought and chewed it 100 times and you got nowhere. And the fix to this is to move on with your life. In Taoism, there's something called the heart fasting method. In the heart fasting method, when a human being is suffering, he or she just has to erase themselves from the scene. Stop thinking about yourself. Just move on. That's why it's called heart fasting. You basically take yourself away from the scene. Fast it. Right? And move on. You become the thing that you're trying to do. You're on a bike, become the bike. You're playing a game, become the game. So that your brain is not spending time somewhere else and making your life hell. And one thing that I wish I told myself when I was younger is that not every question needs inquiry. Not everything needs unlimited thought, because sometimes there are no answers to anything. For example, me worrying about a public speech tomorrow, and I used to worry when I was very young, right? About, I have a speech tomorrow and, is it going to go well or not? What is the point of this, of inquiring, of constantly thinking, am I going to do well? Am I going to do badly? Am I going to do well? Am I going to do badly? What is the point? Right? If I'm prepared, I'm going to do well. If I'm not prepared, I'm not going to do well. What is the point of thought? It's a bloody waste of time. So I've realized not everything needs inquiry. And these days what I do is, does this need further inquiry? Yes, go on with it. Does this not need further inquiry? Stop it. For example, when I was younger, I used to have a lot of existential crises, right? Which is, why am I alive? What's the purpose of life? Right? And I read the physics version of this. I read the biology version of this. I read the mathematical answer to this. And today I've just realized I'm still not satisfied with any of those answers. I'm constantly looking. And very recently I just realized, what's the point? What is the point? Right? I'd rather pick specific problems, like how to cure disease or how to build something that connects people, rather than thinking about why are we alive? It's pointless. So unless somebody comes up with new evidence that, forces me to think about this problem again, I'm simply not going to think about it. This is not the sign of a stupid person. This is in fact a sign of a smart person, which says there are some problems that are not worth thinking about, or that you've thought about enough and that don't deserve your attention anymore. Right? Don't chew on the furniture. So that's how I got over overthinking. I rarely overthink these days. And if I have something that I'm overthinking about that I find myself inquiring a lot, I just go figure out what the answer to that is quickly. Right? For example, for a few weeks, my chest was hurting really badly. Right? And my arm was also hurting really badly along with it. So instead of overthinking, I just got an ECG done. I was like, look, I can either think about this because it's hurting for weeks, or I can just go get an ECG done, and it was fine. So sometimes just go get the solution quickly, right? If you're worried, does this girl like me or does this boy like me, and you're thinking about it for months, just go ask. Just go ask. It saves you from so much suffering. I know it's easier said than done, right? In that case, an ECG is much easier to get than asking the person you like whether they like you or not. But I'm just saying, why put yourself through undue suffering? Right? It's better to have burst suffering where you ask the question and you're nervous, rather than chronic, consistent suffering. That's all I got to say. Bye. And make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button.